Well, good morning and welcome to the Morning Report. My name is Willie Lawson. Glad that you are here today. There was a time, it wasn't really very long ago, when social media felt like a revolution in information. Platforms like Twitter, which is now called X, looked like they might change how people learned about the world. When I got involved in Twitter, it was during the Don't Go movement in the Congress, where the Republicans were trying to get Nancy Pelosi to put the American Energy Act on the ballot. And y'all can look that up. It was sort of this this one stop shopping of everything American energy. And Nancy Pelosi left and had C-SPAN turned off, which was her privilege as Speaker at the time. And we learned about all this through Twitter, through the Republican representatives being on Twitter, and the thing they had called Periscope at the time. So it seemed like politicians and journalists posted news, and this was in real time. And experts explain complicated subjects in long threads, blogs. Citizens were on the ground that could show what was happening before the evening news story existed. It seemed like it was just going to be a great thing. And for a moment, it felt like the public had been handed this wonderful, powerful new tool. The idea was simple. Information would flow faster. More voices would be heard. One of the things that Andrew Breitbart used to say all the time: more voices, more voices, more voices. And people would be able to make better decisions because they had more direct access to the facts. That was the promise. But somewhere along the way, something changed. Today, if you spend even like 15 minutes scrolling through X, the experience is very different. Instead of learning something useful, you are bombarded with outrage. Every story is framed as a scandal. Every political moment is presented as a catastrophe. Every disagreement is treated like a moral emergency. I mean, the whole damn thing is like World Star. It's like World Star took over. People fighting about this and that. People getting thrown off airplanes. Groups of Black people fighting a lot, framed as "look at them," saying usual suspects, all meant to create some rage. Well, it feels less like an information platform and more like a machine designed to make people angry. Many people sense this change instinctively. They scroll for a few minutes, they feel their blood pressure rising, they close the app, feeling irritated, divided, or exhausted. And quite frankly, folks, I'm exhausted. Just I'm tired of it. And they begin to ask reasonable questions. What was the point all along? Now, the answer is complicated. But the short version is this: the system did not begin as an outrage machine, but the incentives inside the system slowly pushed it in that direction. And to understand why, you have to understand how social media platforms actually work. At the heart of every social platform is one core metric. And it's the same way here on YouTube: engagement. Engagement means things like clicks, click on, comments, reposts, shares, likes, and the time spent looking at the screen. The more engagement a post generates, the more valuable the post becomes to the platform. Engagement keeps people on the site longer, which increases advertising revenue and keeps the platform growing. But here's the problem: human beings do not react most strongly to calm information like this. They react most strongly to emotion. And the most powerful emotional trigger online right now is anger. When people see something that makes them angry, they respond immediately. They comment, they repost to criticize it, they quote it to argue about it, They send it to friends. They write long threads explaining why it's wrong. All of these reactions count as engagement. So the algorithm learns something very quickly. Content that makes people angry spreads farther and faster than content that calmly explains something, like we're doing right now. A thoughtful explanation of tax policy might receive a few hundred excuse me, interactions. A post claiming that the government is about to destroy the country will receive tens of thousands. The system does not care which one is accurate. It only measures which one keeps people interacting. And the answer is almost always the same: outrage wins. Over time, people who spend a lot of time on these platforms begin to notice the pattern. Some users adapt to it deliberately. They learn that if they present information in the most explosive, outrageous way possible, their audience will grow. Soon, entire accounts are built around that strategy. Every story becomes a crisis. Every headline becomes an accusation. Every opponent becomes a villain. And that's what people call rage bait. Rage bait is content specifically designed to provoke anger so it spreads farther through the algorithm. Sometimes rage bait exaggerates a real issue. Sometimes it removes important context from the story. Sometimes it's built around misleading clips or carefully chosen stats that support only one side of an argument. But the goal is the same: trigger a reaction. Because reaction equals reach. What makes this especially powerful is that rage bait does not belong to just one political side. It doesn't. It's everywhere. It's exhausting. Accounts on the political left use it to portray conservatives as dangerous extremists. Accounts on the political right use it to portray liberals as dangerous extremists. Activists, commentators, influencers, even some professional media outlets participate in the cycle. Everybody does. The outrage machine does not care about ideology. It cares about engagement. And anger produces engagement more reliably than any other emotion. There's another factor that's accelerated this shift. Traditional media used to act as a gatekeeper. Newspapers, television networks, and radio stations had editors who decided which stories were important and how those stories should be presented. Those systems were I'm telling you, far from perfect. I'm not unhappy that we don't have gatekeepers anymore, personally. Bias existed then just as it does now. Because we think now, I hear people say, well, media used to be more down the middle. No, they weren't. It's always been biased. But there were at least some layers of review and professional standards that slowed the spread of the nonsense and the craziness. Now, social media removed all of that. Anyone can post anything instantly to millions of people. If you're at the Waffle House and something pop off, wait, let me get my news station. Hang on. I'm at the Waffle House and something pop off. I'm ready. Now, this has some benefit. Important information can travel quickly. People who would never have a voice in traditional media now can reach an audience. But the downside, well, that's obvious. False or misleading information spreads just as fast as accurate information. And when misleading information is paired with emotional outrage, it spreads even faster. Another change that shaped the modern social media environment is the rise of what might be called performative politics. On platforms like X, Many public figures are no longer simply communicating ideas, they are performing for an audience. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Jasmine Crockett, two people who come to mind. The goal is not just to explain policy or debate an issue. The goal is to generate viral moments. Bleach blonde body, right? A politician posts a sarcastic comment designed to provoke their opponents. A commentator frames a story in the most dramatic language possible. Activists could compete to produce the most aggressive interpretation of a news event. These performances are regarded by the platform because they drive, what's the word? Engagement. But they also have consequences. The more politics becomes a performance, the less space remains for careful, intelligent discussion. Complicated issues require time. Time. Complicated issues also require context. Complicated issues require nuance. But frankly, nuance doesn't travel well in an algorithm, especially when the algorithm is rewarded by emotional reactions. So complex problems are reduced to simple slogans. People are encouraged to pick sides immediately. I was talking to my wife the other day, and I was talking about something that was said on social media a lot, probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that if you're not outraged, then you don't understand the problem. What? Or if you're not outraged, you're part of the problem. So, and disagreement is treated as evidence of bad character. If you don't agree with me, then you're part of the problem. You're a terrible person, rather than an opportunity to exchange ideas. Now, that's how division grows. Not because the public suddenly became more hostile than previous generations, but because the system constantly amplifies the most hostile voices. The quiet majority of people who are willing to listen, think, consider different perspectives are simply less visible here online. Calm voices do not spread as fast as angry ones. The last video I did about we need to be more calm, one of the comments were, time for that is over, huh? Time to get outraged, time to get strapped. As a result, online environments begins to feel more extreme than real life is. If you go through social media and you see the extremes of social media, and then you go outside, you go through your daily life, you don't see that. It's not there. X is not real life. It isn't. X is not real life. Twitter is not real life. Things don't happen in your life like they happen on Twitter. They just don't. Someone scrolling through their feed might see hundreds of posts that make the world appear to be on the brink of absolute collapse. Every issue is framed as an existential threat. Every disagreement appears to be war between good and evil. But when that same person steps away from the screen and talks to neighbors, co-workers, or family members, reality actually feels different. Most people are far more reasonable than the internet would ever suggest. The outrage machine distorts perception. This distortion has serious consequences. So when people believe that the other side is constantly behaving in the worst possible way, trust collapses. Cooperation becomes more difficult. Institutions lose their credibility because every action is interpreted through a lens of suspicion. And when trust disappears, political systems become unstable. And that instability can be exploited by anyone who benefits from division. Domestic political actors can use outrage to mobilize supporters. That's why we have. That's why I do these kind of things, because we have to be so careful about this. Foreign governments can use social media to amplify divisive narratives. Anonymous accounts can spread inflammatory content designed to specifically make citizens distrust one another. Folks, we have to be really careful about how easily we are manipulated. The technology was supposed to improve information access, but it can end up weakening public understanding. But recognizing the problem is the first step to addressing it. And that's what we hope to do here right now. The reality is that social media platforms are tools. They reflect incentives back on into them. If the incentives reward outrage, then outrage will dominate. But if individuals still have choices about how they interact with these systems, one option is to simply reduce exposure. Many people have already begun limiting the amount of time they spend scrolling through social feeds. Doom scrolling is so dangerous. Mental health benefits of doing so are widely documented. The other option is to become more deliberate about who you follow. Instead of filling a feed account with accounts that specialize in provocation, fighting, cursing, performative politics, users can seek out voices that prioritize information, analysis, and context, like me. Now, this doesn't mean avoiding disagreement, because healthy disagreement is part of a functioning society. But there is a difference between disagreement and constant emotional manipulation. The more people become aware of the outrage incentive structure, the easier it is to recognize when content is designed to provoke them rather than to inform them. And for media creators, this environment also creates a challenge and an opportunity. The challenge is obvious. Content that is calm, thoughtful, often struggle to compete with content that is loud and dramatic. You know, it's funny that in my world, this channel that you're watching now has been on is it's a channel that's more than 10 years old. And you can see that it's got just barely over 1,000 subscribers, 1,100 subscribers. I think my top video has 97,000 views. That's my top video, 97,000. And there isn't anything close to it, I don't think. I don't think I have another video that's 10,000 views. I haven't looked recently, but I don't think I have another video that's over 10,000 views. I have a handful of 1,000 view videos because a lot of my content is just like this. I refused at the onset of this channel to be outrageous on purpose, to rage bait. I'm not going to. Well, for a couple of reasons. Because it really doesn't pass on good information most of the time. And second of all, frankly, it's freaking exhausting. And I'm just not going to do that for the few dollars that YouTube was going to provide. My 97,000 view video, I never got paid $1 for that, because before I could earn enough money to get a check, even of $100, Google crapped my AdSense account for invalid clicks, I guess. And it's been almost 10 years. 8 years, 9 years. So there isn't any reason for me to participate in the Ragebait. So I'm gonna be this guy. So many people are becoming people are becoming exhausted by the constant emotional pressure of social media. They want explanations rather than slogans, and we hope to do that here. They want context rather than clips, and we hope to do that here. They want analysis rather than endless outrage, and we hope to do that here. Long form media, podcasts, video commentary like this, newsletters, and independent journalism can fill that gap. Now, we're not going to, I'm telling people who are looking for that and would like to produce that, you're not going to catch fire immediately. Even from the people that say they want it. I'll be honest with you. So instead of reacting instantly to every headline, long form platforms allow creators like us to slow down and examine an issue carefully. A complicated policy can be explained step by step. A news story can be placed in historical context. Conflicting arguments can be explored rather than shouted down. In other words, long form media can restore something that the outrage machine struggles to support. Understanding. Understanding. That's why many of the most influential voices in modern media are moving away from short posts towards deeper conversations. People still discover stories through social media. They do. But increasingly, they leave these platforms to find someone who can help them understand what's actually happened. The platform becomes a spark. A deeper conversation happens somewhere else. The shift suggests that the future of informed public discussion may not lie inside social media platforms themselves. Instead, these platforms may function like signals, places where people first encounter an issue and then realize, I need more information. The real understanding happens when someone takes the time to step back from the algorithm and explore the topic more carefully. That kind of thoughtful engagement requires something that's in short supply: patience. Something else that's in short supply: curiosity. It requires a willingness to resist the constant pressure to react instantaneously. But it also is the only way to break the cycle of outrage that currently dominates so much of the online community. Social media once promised to connect people through information. And in a lot of ways, it still can. But that promise will only be fulfilled if people learn to recognize the outrage machine for what it is: a system designed to capture attention by provoking emotion. Once people see the system clearly, they regain the ability to step outside of it. And that may be the most important skill anyone can develop in the modern information age. My name is Willie Lawson. Welcome to the Morning Report. Until we see you again, walk there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We'll see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.